Hi there, my name is Beth MacDonald Stone, and I'm an avid knitter and knitwear designer, coming to you usually from Bermuda, but again, second time from New York City. It's summertime. I live in Bermuda year-round pretty much, but in the summer we vacation in New York City for something completely different, and yet it's still pretty close, so it's just a 2-hour flight. New York is, Manhattan is the opposite of small town, little pokey island, Bermuda. Pokey, beautiful island. So we're here in the city. My husband's gone back to Bermuda, which is good because it looks like we're going to get a hurricane this weekend. So he's busy at home bringing in all of the furniture and the plants and everything like that and battening down the hatches. Oliver and I are still in the city for another week, so we miss that, which I have to say I do love a good hurricane. The houses are safe. I feel safe in my house. And also it's a lot of work. So I feel bad that my husband is doing everything on his own. We usually don't get hurricanes in August. Usually our season starts in September and it goes September, October. Usually the end of October is pretty much the end of hurricane season. Officially, I think for Bermuda, it starts in July, beginning of July, and goes to the end of November, I think officially, just to be on the conservative side. But pretty much the pattern is usually September and October. So this is early. This is really early. So I'm hoping that this doesn't mean that we're going to have an active season. With hurricanes, usually it does bring in cooler weather, which then, in theory, prevents future hurricanes from coming. So it cools the sea temperature and stuff like that. So with an early one, I don't know if that really happens. Usually when we get a hurricane in the middle of October, I know that like fresh air is coming and the temperature is going to change and summer's over. This early in the year, I don't know. It could be a long windy ride. But yeah, so Jeff's started pulling everything in. The rain has started, the pre-hurricane rain. The winds will pick up probably tomorrow, and the hurricane's supposed to pass by closest point on Friday for us. I know New York City is going to have wind and not so much. I know rain, a lot of rain this weekend, so we'll get that too. And day in the life of being in Bermuda, but I'm in New York. Yay! It's such a great city. Ollie and I have been really busy, and I'll talk more about that at the end. So, diving into knitting, what am I wearing? Let's start with that. And I'm using my phone, which is just turned off. I'm using my phone with my notes because I'm without a printer, and it's actually kind of good. So, again, apologies if I'm looking at my phone. So what am I wearing? I'm wearing the Chevron Vest. I know I wore this, I think, 2 podcasts ago, but I have been wearing this a lot this summer. It's been really hot here in the city, as it always is. It's no big deal. It's not a big surprise. But this has been so light and cool. I literally just have a sports bra underneath it, so it's very minimal. It's knit out of Sandnes Garn Line, the DK worsted weight one, in the color, let me just look it up, 6080 black. It's wash and wear. Like this yarn, I love, and I will continue to be knitting it for summer garments for many years to come, because I will go out, I will walk a ton. I love walking, and the cities are just so much fun. I walk in the shade, always find the shady side. So I'll wear this and then literally just throw it in the washer and the dryer. So Sandnes Garn Line is great. It holds up beautifully. Like, I think it looks just as it did when I first knit it. It's a great top. I love it. It's cool. It's very practical. I've knit it with I think 0 or even a bit of negative ease. I would totally knit another one and maybe do a bigger one just for fun. There's 2 necklines on the pattern. There's a higher neckline and a lower neckline. Again, totally customizable. It's all charted. But if you know your measurements, again, I've talked so much about people's magic measurements and just knowing, like, this is a negative E, so I did a sort of smaller arm side here, which is great. I like it. The next one I do, maybe I'll do it a little wider, a little looser, with a deeper arm side for another sort of look. I like this scoop neck. I get really hot, so less fabric, more skin. Not too much skin. I'm too old for that. But some skin for aeration. I usually, even in the summer, like I find even jewelry, like necklaces, really hot. So I I'm a sweaty Betty. Anyways, so this has been amazing. I can't speak highly enough, and I just love the yarn. And not to plug a good friend, but to plug a good friend, I always buy my Sandnes Garn Line from Dinah at the knitting place. It's just great. She makes it easy, and it's really, really, really fabulous summer yarn. So that's what I'm wearing. Nothing new to returning viewers, but this is on repeat, and love it. Okay, so what have I finished since I last spoke with you? So the big one that I finished is this sweater here, and I am thrilled with it. So I'll hold it close so you can see the lovely sort of stitch detail. The stitch detail reminds me, as I mentioned before, like a hem stitch detail that people would use on traditional linens, for preparing for your trousseau, etc., etc. I threw out into the world last time, I couldn't remember the name, or I couldn't find the name of this technique, and I got back so many replies with the answer, and I thank you so much. It's entre deux, so between the two in French, entre deux. A friend of mine, Tassie, also sent the name in Portuguese, which is really wonderful. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but that's really cool. So I'm going to probably name this something around in the way of entre deux, because I really do think that it looks like, you've had a linen and you've pulled the warp or the weft out and then threaded ribbon. Of course, this is all knit. In Colorwork, it's all slip stitches, so it's knit as you go. I haven't threaded this orange yarn through. It's just part of the stitch pattern, but I think it's really precious. Because the stitch pattern needs to go in this direction, I did cast on for a provisional cast on here. So, and in the pattern, there'll be a link to what I suggest. I blocked it, but I didn't really block this really well. So this is me barely blocking it, and the line's pretty much gone. So when I properly block it when I get home, I'm sure that provisional cast on line will disappear. And then I knit up and finish the collar. The collar is doubled and just sewn in, whip stitched in, or whatever. That was really easy. And then with the provisional cast on, the method that I show you is to use, so your stitches are held on either by like a barber cord, or what I used was just the actual an extra spare cable. So I just reattach the needles and then knit down. I think this is great because I think you do get an optimum control of your collar and how you want it to fit. I like things to be quite sort of well fitting around the neck and snug, and I find that this way also, because I've bound off with a not too stretchy bind off and then stitched it down, it's got a little bit of strength, stability in the collar. So I'm really excited about that. So you've got the control of the yoke and the collar by knitting up, and then you've got the control of the perfect length of both the body and the sleeves knitting down. I did do a high-low hemline. Of course, that's completely optional. I just like it. I think I like it in most things. I like it in my dresses. I like it a high-low hemline in my shirts. I think it's very chic. I like it. I just think it looks it's a cool tailored look. I know it's not for everyone, and So, again, all these things are totally modifiable. Another person commented that they'd love to see the stitch pattern, like the entre deux stitch pattern on the cuff. That would be totally doable. You just wouldn't have the little legs that come up, because of course you need to be going up in the direction to have the legs. I guess you could have the legs. The legs would be facing the cuff, so you could not up in the same direction as the yoke. But I think this stitch pattern would look just as interesting on the cuffs without those two little legs coming up, just literally like that. Beautiful. Again, it's so easy. You could totally add this. You could add it at the hem. You could do it all the way down, whatever you want. So that's a really exciting design. I'm super thrilled about. Love the colors. Can't wait to wear it. The yarn is, let me just pull it up. It's from Diamond Laine. Diamond Laine is a sub-brand, I guess, of, oh my gosh, my favorite. I'm doing it again. I did this last week. Diamond Lane is Lamb and Kid. Oh my gosh, Lamb and Kid, Bainbridge Island, incredible colors. This is no exception. So this is Elmer worsted from Diamond Lane. You can find it at Lamb and Kid. And the colors are Cookie, which is the natural, Hi-Vis, which is the orange, and Salted, which is the really lovely ice clear blue turquoise watercolor. It's really lovely. Their yarn is really spectacular to work with. Elmer is no exception. Everything, I've been working a lot with their yarn. I visited them when I was in the Seattle area. I went, had to go twice. Their colors are so special. It took me a while to get my brain around it. And so this was just, amazing. And so I have a few designs coming out right now with Lamb and Kid, Diamond Lane. And there you can really see. You can see the stitch pattern. I'm really excited about that. So I've written up the pattern. It's ready for tech editing. The tech editor is on her vacation too right now, so it's perfect timing. When I get back to Bermuda and we all resume our lives at the end of August, I'll forward this off of the tech editor and then look for test knitters eventually for that. So this would probably come out, I'm expecting maybe December, maybe? I'm not sure. We'll see. The fall, late fall. So that's one thing that I finished. And then the other thing I finished were these sort of vanilla Shortie Socks. I mentioned them to you last time. I'm finding that with an afterthought heel that the socks, I think my ankles are a little too deep for this, so it makes the socks very low. I'm a little worried that they'll pull down. I was tempted to maybe pick up stitches and just do like even an afterthought heel tab. I think that's totally possible. I did mention getting the little the puffy paint to create like a little grip in the back. And a lot of people were a little concerned about that, whether it would feel good. I'm also noticing that I've been wearing a lot of low socks and running shoes, and I have a allergy to rubber, to plastic, and I've been getting irritation on my skin with that. So I definitely won't do that, is the bottom line, because I think not only would it maybe bulky and uncomfortable, it might not even do the job, and I might be allergic to it. Weird, right? We all have weird allergies. So, and some don't. I do. Weird allergies. So yeah, so they're cute socks. Maybe I'll just play around with it. I mean, whatever. And just add a little heel tab here, which I think would just sort of go a bit above the back of my shoes so that it doesn't slide down. I see these as sort of like just trial and error socks. The other reason they're kind of trial and error socks is I love the main yarn. The main yarn is from a friend of mine who used to live in Bermuda and who used to dye. She doesn't dye anymore. Her yarn was called Sheepwrecked in Bermuda. And this was her Bermuda Walls colorway. And when I first got here to New York, I bought some yarn from Knitty City just to supplement it so I could finish up every scrap of the Sheepwrecked and then carry on. And I'm finding that this lovely yarn, it's beautiful color that I bought at Knitty City, which is from Tres Liz. It really crocs in my hands, so my hands get really sticky and gray. I'm inside, I'm in air conditioning, so it's not my usual sweaty Betty grossness on this yarn, but I do know it's difficult to use. I also know that if I have it on my feet, is it going to make a mess on my feet with the walking and sweating? Do I want that? Do I want the mess on the inside of my shoes? I'm not really sure. So I'm kind of seeing these as like experimentation socks. I did use this, or I was just thinking, okay, back to this. I was just thinking that maybe I'll block these socks to see if this runs. I blocked them. It totally doesn't run. So it's just must be my body oils and the yarn. And I think that's weird and unusual, but I'm not totally surprised because, again, I do run warm. So, if it's going to crock, it's going to crock for me. And it does make it sticky and kind of gross on my hands. I'd be tempted maybe in the winter to try wearing the socks and see how they feel, maybe in a pair of black shoes so that I don't ruin the inside of maybe a nice, whatever, at the inside of the shoes. But still, I'm kind of uptight about those things. So I'm reluctant to keep on knitting with this because going into what I'm working on now, so whip section. I love following Summer Lee designs, and I hope you all have found her book, the Sock Project book. It's a great book. It just came out this year, and she has an amazing podcast. So one of the things she's doing right now for a full year is a very affordable subscription. So I think it was $12 or $14 for a pair of socks every month with color work on it. And that's just great. I've never done color work on socks. I'm kind of a sock newbie. It's not been a huge thing for me, but I'm really loving it. Anyways, so I totally bought the subscription, super excited. Started with this one because it only needed 2 colors. I only have 2 colors left now here in the city. And I love that. So I was using this color. So I bought, when I was at Knitty City with my husband, when I needed extra yarn, I bought this other one called H2O from dyed by Tres Liz. It's really pretty. I love the colors. And my idea was that they went together so beautifully. So I tried to knit her design, Summer Lee's design, using this. And it's a low contrast, and I was totally okay with it because I think it's actually quite pretty. But what I noticed was my fingers totally smudged the coloration of the darker gray over the stitches. So I was like, that's kind of gross or yucky, or it even makes it more muddy. And it's interesting, it looks more crisp on the screen. In real life, you can't. It's very muddy all in here. You know, clean turquoise up here, but all this is sort of very muddy. So again, the crocking was kind of a pain. So that's no good. I love to walk, as I said, so I went over to the Brooklyn Museum and saw a really sweet exhibition of Paul McCartney's photographs from 1963 to 64, which is the when the Beatles became massive. And so really, oh my gosh, those boys were so cute and young and sweet and naive and charming. And so they have all the photos of sort of the last few main performances in the UK. Not last few, but like before they got a big chart record or chart recognized, chart hit. Then they were going to the States, and literally with it, they got a chart hit, and then were in the States very quickly after performing here. So it was just really fun, really great photos. I think the exhibition's kind of over now, but it was really fun. Anyways, Brooklyn Museum, walking the Brooklyn General. It's a bit of a hike. It was like an hour and a half walk. I stopped and had lunch, and my intention was to pick up another sock yarn. So this I found at Brooklyn General, and I've never knit with Magpie Fibers Swanky Sock. It is lovely. This is lovely, the Tres Liz, don't get me wrong, but I think I've always liked a sock yarn that's slightly plumper, and this is that perfect sort of maybe like heavy fingering, where this is sort of a traditional fingering. Love it, it's lovely, it's very pleasing in the hand, but there's something really magical about this. So I might have to go back before I go just for a few more skeins of the Swanky Sock. And this one, the color of this is, where's my phone? So this is Swanky Sock, Bell Bottom Blues. Lovely, love it. So I re-knit that sock and it looks amazing. So I'm super excited about that. I finished this one. I've got all my stitch markers here so that I know that, it's my 64 stitches for the foot. I do my own sort of toe because it's sort of a shorter toe rather than a very long. And the color work is really fabulous. It's great. So I'm thrilled. So I will definitely cast on the second one. The other thing I'm learning, not to be so rigid with, the cuff doesn't have to be, the leg doesn't have to be 64 stitches. Going up a few stitches is probably good, especially for color work. And it was really important because I do find I must have a really deep heel, which is why the shorties, afterthought shorties didn't work. And so I find usually getting socks over my heel and to the instep trickier. So having a few more stitches up here and using a larger needle size really was the magic trick for that for me. So I'm totally learning here. I do a lot of color work knitting, of course, but just, The foot has a lot more angles. So yeah, so really neat. Really love it. Can't wait to cast on the second one. There's going to be absolutely no second sock syndrome here. Really love it in my hands. And really, really, really love the feeling of the yarn, both yarns, but the Swanky Sock is really special. So yay. Really excited about that. I have been wearing the socks that I finished before with my friend's yarn, and she's an avid sock knitter. She's so she really knows what yarn to use, and hers was amazing too. I think it was, again, a little plumper, really lovely in your hands, and I've been wearing those socks a ton with my running shoes, walking around the city, because I was reacting to the other socks with the elastic in the back, and they're wearing beautifully. So yeah, people who know socks know yarn. And my friend Priscilla is no different. Priscilla knit every one of the socks in the first 52 weeks of Socks book within that year. So she has definitely spent time on socks. She's prolific, and she wears them, and they're all lovely. So that's that on socks. And then the other thing I'm working on is I went to Downtown Yarns here in New York City, a really cute little store, I think on First Avenue or Avenue A, was in East Village, almost Alphabet City area. Really great, cute little store, and they always have really interesting yarn. Sorry, a little tickle in my throat. Anyways, so I went there, and I always love to see what they have. And she had the store had this really interesting yarn from the Great Adirondack Yarn Company. And unfortunately, the price tag's over it. It was $18. And it's a DK weight organic cotton called Rosewood. And I just thought the colors were the colors of summer. The other neat thing that they had there was they had a sample knit up in it. And it was a little sweater for a child. And in that sweater, you could see, as we all know, the different patterns created, with hand-dyed yarn at different diameters. And I thought, that's really interesting. And I have knit, and I've embraced that sort of, the sort of zigzags or the lightning bolts that happen and stuff like that, especially usually on the tighter circumferences and stuff. But I thought, wouldn't it be really neat? What is special to me about this are all the beautiful colors. I'd really like it not to have any pattern at all, like any, why is that word escaping my head now? Anyway, I'm going to carry on and it'll come to me. Pooling. I don't mind pooling. I quite like pooling. But the specialness of this yarn is more the color. Totally the color. Don't want a pattern. I just want it to be the sort of fuzzy, muzzy, hazy, painterly sort of expression of my thoughts on what summer colors are. So I immediately wanted to cast something on, and I immediately wanted to design something and just sort of like, how would I resolve that? So my thoughts on the matter are to knit panels that are roughly the same size. The front panel is going to be 12 stitches wider than the back panel so that it loops down a bit like that. So the front panel sew together with the back panel, up until this point or so. Very customizable. Back panel the same. It's coming along. I'm just doing the hem now. So here's the back panel. Sew them together on the shoulders. Pick up for the sleeves. Do a few, I'm not sure how long the sleeves are going to be, but again, all of the widths of each panel will be roughly the same, so there'll be no change in, pooling, so that you always get just this interesting coloration. There, as you can see, my markers for rows counting. And that way it's just an expression of color, if that makes sense. The other thing that I find really interesting is if you do stockinette stitch, it's very flat. And that's wonderful. It's actually my favorite look. But when you're playing with color, having these sort of purl bumps bring colors from the row below to the row above and vice versa. So it blends the colors even better. Similarly to, you know, the reverse garter, but then you have to purl. So with this, it's all knit. There's purling with the ribbing, but otherwise it's all knit, the whole panel. So it's really easy to do. It's really mindless. This will be sort of like the easiest, most mindless sweater design ever, or t-shirt design or whatever. And I would hope people would do it not only in cotton hand-dyed yarns, but in wool hand-dyed yarns. And it's just a way to play with those skeins of beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hand-dyed yarn and their lovely colors. And I do think that if this were to pool in any way, because it's the same width, it would roughly pool the same way for every panel, so there'd be cohesion. And again, you'd still be looking at the color and the yarn and the beauty of that. So it's basically just a design to bring out that look. I'm hoping to start joining, so my next plan is to join here. I would do it with a mattress stitch. I took a class quite a while ago, I think pre-COVID, at Vogue Knitting from a fellow, can't remember his name. The class was called Seems Like Surgery, or something, seeming like a surgeon, or something like that. But it was incredibly liberating. And he just talked about different ways of seaming garments together so that you're not terrified of sort of a pieced garment. This is going to be so easy. It's basically going to be some square angles. Seaming like a surgeon, something like that. It was a really great class. And I'm sure I've seen it come up again. So if you see it come up again in any of the Vogue Knitting or any other class sort of things going on, do take it. It was a great, great, great class. So yeah, so I will do mattress stitch here. In the instructions, you've got 2 long pieces from the cast on, so you've got the yarn already there. I wouldn't finish off where you want to leave it. I would just leave it, unfinished here, so that when you get to the final trying on, you can adjust the width here, because it's all personal. I like a tighter neck. Some people like it looser. I'm not a huge fan of boat necks because I find they kind of glug me. This will be a sort of boat neck, but because there'll be 12 extra stitches in the front is going to hang forward a little bit. From there, so when you have these seams here, you'll have basically now like a long panel with a hole in it. Then I'm going to be picking up stitches on either side for the sleeves. And the great thing is, again, I would pick up more conservatively than the beginning. You'll have a goal of numbers, which will be very similar to the panel widths. You can drop stitches off if you've got too many on one side, with, of course, the shoulder seam being the middle marker. So then you'll work that flat, some more ribbing there. I'm not sure how long I want the sleeves. I'm going to wait to see to try it on, but the sleeves might be just even 2 inches, 3 inches long, similar to the neckline. So that, again, it's a repeated kind of dimension, and then bind that off. And then the idea then is to then sew, the sleeves will be sort of up here, will be just to sew under the sleeve, down the body, and down to the hem. And the sewing, again, is mattress stitch. Super easy. Bob's your uncle. It's going to be a very simple top, but again, intention to show off the beautiful colors of the hand-dyed yarn. The other thing that I might do, and I've toyed with, which I'll know more whether I come back and I do a small little collar, or I do an I-cord collar, or just leave the collar, because it'll be finished as it is. I just do like things that are stabilized a bit around the neckline here. I love crossbody bags, and so I find tops that aren't really finished really well where there's a join here can be rubbed and can sort of be stretched here. So I might just reinforce the collar. It could be an I-cord, like I said. It could be a picked up sort of another sort of little bit of ribbing. It also could be a crochet, which is almost invisible, but it just gives that stability so that when I wear my crossbody bags for hours and hours and walk everywhere, I know that I'm not damaging the top, which I do worry about with other ones that are a little bit more simply constructed up around the neck. So I'm really excited about that. I kind of think that I'll be finished that this week, and that's great. I'm really psyched about that. And then I do have one more design that I had charted before I left for Bermuda. I think I talked to you about it before. I just really need to start on it. I got sidetracked, but that's just with this lovely Pascuali yarn Cashmere Charis. Oh, Oliver's awake. and Isager Mohair silk. This is going to be a cabled vest, and I can't wait to design that, I've kind of designed it, charted it. I just need to get going on it. But I got totally sidetracked by this gorgeous, gorgeous yarn from Downtown Yarns. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let's see. Yeah. So that's pretty much the knitting. When I've been, oh yes, I want to talk about design names. So last time I chatted, I threw out the two things where I couldn't remember the name of this technique, the entre-deux. So people really helped with that. A ton of people knew. It was amazing. Thank you all so much. The other thing I threw out was I'm looking for a name for the design that I've done for Cake Wool, for Cake Palooza. And I got so many great ideas, and so I kept a list and notes, and really I went back to it. And the name suggestion that really I kept returning to was called Icing on the Cake. The Icing on the Cake Fest, which is perfect. It's just fantastic and special. So I've gone with that. And there was two people that came up with that name, Suzanne Erot and Jocelyn McKinnon. And I've been in touch with them, and I'll send them a copy of the pattern when it's done. Suzanne is ironically on my test knitting list, so she is keen to test knit it too. So that's kind of fun. I'm thrilled with that. I think the name is really great. I'll probably try to insert a picture just to remind you what the vest is that I'm calling, and maybe I'll put in the publication page cover that I designed, because I got really, once I get an idea, I got really excited and worked on that. So that's really great. That has been tech edited, and when I get back to Bermuda, that'll get thrown out for test knitters. With traveling with this great laptop that I had, I didn't realize that from Outlook, my group email list, my test knitting list, didn't translate onto this contact in the same way. So I don't have that. I can't send out that test call yet. So I'm going to wait till I get back to Bermuda, which is actually easier because I find this laptop is amazing, but I'm not as organized as I am when I'm at my desk and everything like that. And I don't want to feel chaotic for this test call. So anyway, so that'll come out later. So that's kind of that for all the sort of knitting stuff. What I've been up to, like I said, New York is great. I've been basically averaging about 8 miles a day walking. It feels so good. I love it. It's fantastic. I love people watching, building, looking at architecture, stopping into shops. Some days it's really hot. I stop into more shops than others, just for the little blast of air conditioning. It's just fantastic. I've gone and I've done, last weekend I went and walked around the park. I had a great time. I know the park quite well. I used to run the loop a lot. And that's fun. I decided to stick to shade, and so I explored the North Woods. That was really beautiful. I've never explored that before. Super trippy. I popped out of the North Woods, not anywhere close to where I thought I was, so it took me a long time to get my bearings, but that was really fun. Anyway, so that was lovely. Walking on the city streets is fantastic. I'm right beside the High Line, so I've been using the High Line to pretty much as my getting up and getting down in the city, which is, how dreamy is that? Also on this side of me is the Hudson, which is another really great walking area. When Oliver was little, I used to drag him all the way from a village and his stroller out to Chelsea Piers for summer camp. Now it's literally a stone's throw away from where we are now, so that's kind of funny. Anyways, that's another great walking area, the Hudson River walking area, walking, running, cycling. So great walks, great galleries, great food, and seeing lots of friends. So I've been catching up with a lot of friends that aren't part of the knitting community. That's really fantastic and wonderful. Some that are from Bermuda that are here, some that are here and I never see, so that's really great. And family that my family is very close with, so we went and spent a few days with them, and that's really great. Oliver's really close with their girls, so that was really, really lovely, and we'll probably see them one more time before I go. But I have hung out with some really fun of my knitting friends, which is really so neat and so inspiring. So my husband and I went out to lunch with Christy Glass. She's so much fun. Always good to catch up with her, and we had a great time. I caught up with Sharon and Lorian, Sharon from Whiskey and Wool and Lorian from Yarn Love Turtle, and we went and met at the Metropolitan Museum and went to see the fashion exhibition, costume exhibition of this year. That was really great. The title for this year was Sleeping Beauty. I'm not sure if anyone has seen the photos from the Met Gala. The Met Gala is the opening night for this exhibition. So that was really fun to go with knitters, and Shannon's has a history in the fashion industry. So, I just thought it was really timely and a great thing to do. And we had lunch at the museum, which was really, really fun. Had a lot to chat about. I also went out to lunch with Billy Elias from Billy Toy, another great podcast and great podcaster, really interesting lady. She's from the city too. And her knitting interest is sort of vintage inspired, and so love chatting with her. We had a great time, and just, again, like all the other knitting people, great chats, could go on and on for hours and hours and hours, and that was really fun. We didn't take a picture. I think we were so busy chatting that didn't take a picture, so maybe I'll try, if it's okay with her, to put in a picture from her podcast, just so you can, I find visuals helpful. And then yesterday I had a really great lunch and spent the day walking around with two of the girls from the knitting posse, and that was Kim and Kate. Laura was busy. She's got a big family event this weekend, so Kim and Kate came into the city, and we went to lunch and we walked around and had a great time. Always so much fun. So that was really, really great. So yeah, New York is a wonderful place. It's a really wonderful place. It's really a hub, isn't it? Sort of all roads lead to Rome. On this side of the pond, all roads lead to New York a lot. People passing through, seeing people walking, food, visiting, love it. So that's kind of it for me. I've got my fingers crossed for Hurricane Ernesto, and that it's not a big deal. Hopefully it just brings lots of rain to Bermuda. It's very dry right now. Usually July and early August is really dry, and always in August we get a dump of rain, but this is with a bit of a storm, so fingers crossed. That's not a big deal. Much ado about nothing. And and this will be my last podcast from the city. My next one will be back home, and I'll be sad to leave the city another summer. I'm kind of looking forward to getting home. So yeah. So that's it for me today. I hope all is well with you and that you're knitting on wonderful things. Let me know what you're knitting on. Love to hear all that, and how your summer's been going. And thank you again for all the name recommendations and technique names. I just, I couldn't figure what it was, but I knew there was a name for it, and you guys knew, so thank you. So until the next time, see you in 2 weeks. Happy knitting. Enjoy the rest of your summer or winter or whatever, and see you soon. Okay, bye. Bye.